The Honourable Annette King.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Interesting debate so far from the members of the government, particularly the Minister, who doesn't particularly like to listen to the debate and so minimises the time that he has to listen. But if he wants to talk about politics on this issue, he is a minister that is well known out there in the health sector as a walking political slogan, because most of what he says is political slogans. I was interested in the contribution from a number of members. Rather than debating the issues, they wanted to spread blame around. Well, I'll give the Minister credit for saying this is an issue of 20 years' consideration, Mr Hayes. 20 years of consideration, 5 under a national government, 5 under a national government, 9 under a Labour government, and then you have got another 6 under a national government. So if we're going to throw some blame around about what wasn't done before we became the government, well, let's go back that far in history, Dr Hutchison. I noticed you didn't do that. So let's stick with the issues. Let's start with the regulatory impact statement. And can I ask the members of the government, have they read it? Have they read it? Not one of them has read the regulatory impact statement. Do they know what a regulatory impact statement is for? You see, a regulatory impact statement is provided to the Parliament, Mr Speaker, and you'll appreciate this point. A regulatory impact statement is provided to the Parliament to inform the members what a bill is about. It is, you'd say, a neutral way of providing a bill to the Parliament. It is something that the public can then read and get a very good understanding of what a bill is about. But when you receive a regulatory impact statement that has been so heavily edited that they have crossed out anything that would give you some of the guts of what this is about, then we have a problem. You know, this is just an example of the regulatory impact statement. It would be better used as a draft board than a provision of information for the people here in the public and in this House. And probably what it shows is that it was rushed legislation. Very rushed legislation. Work had not been finished. And how I can work that out is because as late as yesterday, the Minister was advising the media that operational details of the policy are still to be finalised and will be available by September 2013. So the operational details of this policy are not available to this House. They will never be available to the public of New Zealand. Why? Because this bill is going through Parliament under urgency through every stage today. Does that mean the public have a say? Do they get to look at the operational details? No, they do not. They see absolutely nothing about this bill because it will be passed under urgency. Why urgency? I know the public will ask that. Why urgency when it doesn't have to be passed till October 2013 this year, and the operational details won't be available till September this year? Why could this bill not have gone to a select committee chaired by Dr Paul Hutchison, who I'm sure would have enabled people to come and have a say? I suspect he didn't have a say on this at all and heard about it about the same time as everybody else. We've heard from the Minister and others how pleased the sector are with these decisions. Well, I think we should read a bit of the feedback that has come in from those who do represent those with disability. Big negative. I'll read them out. Big negative, the minimum wage. Why would those who are caring for a disabled family be paid less than other carers? Are they worth less? Do they do less? Why would they only be paid the minimum wage? Secondly, they are very upset at the exclusion of spouses and partners being eligible to do the care. Have members opposite met with Care in New Zealand, with an organisation that represents hundreds and hundreds of carers around New Zealand? Nobody has met with them. If they met with them, they would find out, do you know what the average age of a carer is in New Zealand? Around 80. 80 years of age. Let's have a look at Mr Cliff Robinson, who has a man who is caring for his 2 disabled children, who said he was looking for a half-decent scheme. Today, he got a half-baked one. Here he is. Here is Mr Cliff Robinson. Do the members opposite have any idea how old this man is? He is 75 years of age. The father of 2 children who are very disabled, aged 43 and 40. 43 and 40, and what are they told? They cannot have spouses and partners being eligible to look after their children. That is. Have a look at your own bill. They cannot have spouses and children. He can look after partners. He can look after his children, but he couldn't look after his wife if they were in the same situation. The third thing is there is a very high threshold of need. Have a look at the threshold of need that was provided by the Minister's office to the media, not provided to this Parliament, so we could look at the threshold of need. And in addition, let me read this to the members opposite. In addition, the government did all this without any engagement with carers in the policy design or systems that will be used. One person got on the technical advisory group, but they had to only respond to questions from the Minister. That is what has happened with this bill. It's an absolute disgrace, Mr Speaker. I just cannot understand why this government is carrying out this bill in this way. In the few pages that do exist in the regulatory impact statement, the Ministry of Health put up a number of options, payment options. They made payment options under 3 different categories. And what we find is the government said they have been very fair. They've taken the midpoint, $23 million a year, covering 1,600 highly disabled people. That's what they said was being fair. Do you know they had to only move down 1 column, and they could have provided to 5,400 disabled people, and the difference in that payment is $17 million a year, $17 million a year to provide care to 5,400 disabled people. Think about it, opposite. Think about these people. Think about what they face every day. No good yelling out now. Think about it, because you weren't consulted before, the member who is interjecting. And I know this is hurting, and I know it is hurting because they understand what I'm saying is right. Why, for $17 million, would you not include 5,400 disabled people? That is what I call mean-spirited, and so will the rest of the community. Because one thing the community understands is looking after a family member who needs 24 hours a day care, 7 days a week. There is no let-up except for a little bit of respite the government generously offers now and then. There is no let-up. It is like caring for the most dependent of young people. And so they could have chosen option 3C, midpoint, difference 17 million from what the Minister chose. I'm also interested, and we'll get onto this later in questions to the Minister, about the Attorney-General's report to this Parliament. I didn't find it till this morning. I'm not sure if other members did, but I suspect like the regulatory impact statement, they weren't in a hurry to provide it to the Parliament. I think it's interesting, on the last page of the Honourable Christopher Finlay, Attorney-General's report, he said the new section 70E appears to limit the right to judicial review because it would prevent a person from challenging the lawfulness of a decision on the basis it was inconsistent with section 19(1) of the Bills of Rights Act, and on balance I conclude that limitation cannot be justified under section 5 of the Bill of Rights Act. That's from the Attorney-General. That is what he has said. We will look closer at this because this is Parliament's Attorney-General, a member of the National Party, providing that advice, obviously not listened to.
I call Catherine Delahunty.
Thank you, Mr Speaker.